He owns and operates the Pack-A-Day podcast that airs 365 days a year with over 12 million views on YouTube. A new adventure begins. It's time for the Pack-A-Day Radio Show with Andy Herman on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook and on the free Odyssey app.
Matt LaFleur knows how to win. In fact, since he's arrived here in Green Bay, no team in the NFC has won more games. What are the expectations now for this Packers team?
Shay, in the last segment, you mentioned the new locker room that's been renovated. If you walk down that hall, you'll notice that there's banners. There's 13 of them for each championship they've won, 1929 to 2010. And after 2010, there's a blank one. This team knows that that's the expectation. I talked to cornerback Nate Hobbs, who came here in free agency, and I asked him if he noticed that empty banner, and he said right away, and it's been too long of a gap between 2010 and now. General Manager Brian Gutekunst, who has put this young team together, has said several times, it's time we make this step forward. He said in his opening press conference a couple of days ago, we've had a lot of regular season success around here, but it's time we take that next step. And Jordan Love said it is definitely time.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show, and, of course, happy Thursday. We are live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. This is the Pack-A-Day Radio Show. I am Andy Herman. That was Rob Demovsky, courtesy of ESPN, talking about those Super Bowl expectations for your Green Bay Packers. We'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. We've got Matt Freilich, Pack-A-Day Podcast, joining us at 8:20 a.m. this morning. He's had the opportunity to be out at training camp for a couple practices already. We'll get his takeaways from training camp. As always, would love for you to join the show as well. Nicolay Lawfan, talking text line 414-677-1250. Again, 414-677-1250. You can also get your comments in on YouTube if you are watching on YouTube, and we can get through those comments through the course of today's show. Of course, no training camp yesterday, so we have some things that we need to do some catching up on. I love the fact, again, that Rob brought up those Super Bowl expectations. We'll talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about some of the key takeaways that we've learned through 6 days of training camp so far. And then, of course, I want to talk a little bit about that Zach Tom contract, which we've got the final numbers for, and I want to spend a second to dig into because it is a glorious contract if you are a Green Bay Packers fan. First of all, I want to welcome in our super producer, Tommy Wartz. Tommy, how the heck are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well today, Andy. How are you doing this morning?
I am swell. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited that we've got more Packers practice coming up today. I'll be out there in a little bit, and we've got, again, practice tomorrow. Family night already on Saturday, and it's crazy that next week, actually tonight, of course, we've got we've got preseason football. I don't know if I'm willing to go actual football.
Actual was strong, yeah.
Yes, that's a little aggressive for Thursday morning at 8:02 a.m. But we do have football on the television tonight, which I'm excited for. So Hall of Fame game taking place. Excited to see some of those rookies from both squads, specifically Omarion Hampton and Trey Harris. I know are going to play for the Chargers, so we should still get some fun players out there to watch, and looking forward to that. But yeah, preseason next week already for Green Bay. Like the time just flies this time of year.
Absolutely. And I'm going to watch every second of that Hall of Fame game today. I just want that fix of NFL football back in my life. So I don't even know who's playing. You said Chargers and who else? Who?
I believe it's the Lions, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so I don't care. I don't care who's playing in the game. I'm going to watch it. Chargers, Lions. I'm going to need that fix of NFL football back in my life. There's no Brewer game on today, so why not just go all in on the NFL?
All right, so here's your pop quiz for the day. Justin Herbert and Trey Heineke are not playing, the top two quarterbacks for the Chargers. Who is your starting quarterback for the Chargers tonight?
Easton Stick.
That's a really good poll, by the way. He
right.
is a former Chargers backup quarterback, and that is a phenomenal poll. It is Trey Lance.
I did see that. Yeah, I did see that.
Trey Lance. So my guess is we're going to get Trey Lance, and I'm assuming for Detroit we're going to get a lot of Hendon Hooker. So it's the Trey Lance Hendon Hooker battle tonight on Thursday Night Football. What more could you possibly want?
There's been worse matchups. Yeah, there's been worse matchups on the Hall of Fame game, for sure.
Very much so. Totally agreed. And yes, I will be a sicko as well. I'm not sure. I don't think I'm going to get to watch any of it live tonight, but we will absolutely be condensed versioning that entire thing as soon as I have the opportunity and checking it out in its totality, because we are both very sick and ill human beings and want every ounce of football that we can possibly get. So looking forward to that. What did you think of Rob Demovsky Orlovsky there at the onset, courtesy of ESPN, talking about those Super Bowl expectations. And I think clearly Brian Gutekunst set the tone earlier this offseason, stating the sense of urgency that this franchise needs to have. But what did you think of the overall kind of not philosophy, but just kind of idea that it's time to again start winning those championships? That they are the goal is the Super Bowl, and that obviously we're starting to see a little bit of that mentality come through in training camp already.
Yeah, I just think that that's what good organizations think every year, right? I mean, you shouldn't be in a state where it isn't Super Bowl or bust. And I think that as a fan, I always feel that way too. I don't care necessarily about, going into every year, the expectation is Super Bowl. Throughout the year, maybe my expectations change for the team, but my expectation as a fan throughout my entire life at this point has been the Packers are going to be the best team at the end of the year. That's what I always expect. And to say that every year after that hasn't been fun or exciting, sure, but ultimately you don't reach that goal if you aren't a good organization, if you aren't the last team who has a W in the win column in the last game of the year, in my mind. So I don't know. It doesn't get me more excited per se because yeah, that should be the expectation. I know the Packers are a good organization, and good organizations think like that. The Pittsburgh Steelers, whether you think so or not, they're in that building with Aaron Rodgers thinking, hey, we're going to win a Super Bowl this year. The expectation is Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions, same thing right now. While they're in a good state of the organization, maybe not the historic good organization that Green Bay is, it's the same thing. The good organization should be thinking Super Bowl or bust every year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Packers currently 10th most likely team to win the Super Bowl per those Potawatomi Sportsbook odds. I have umbrage with one of those teams that are ahead of them, maybe two, but certainly one. The early ones, of course, the Ravens plus 650, Bills plus 700, Eagles plus 750. I'm actually surprised the Eagles aren't first on that list, but Chiefs plus 800, Lions plus 1100, Rams plus 1700, Commanders plus 1900. And then I have two that I think are a little bit more interesting ahead of Green Bay. The 49ers plus 1900. I'm not going to take huge issue with it, but I think I'd put Green Bay ahead of San Fran. And then the Minnesota Vikings plus 2100 ahead of the Green Bay Packers. Listen, I am a pretty big J.J. McCarthy stan. I think he's going to be really good in Minnesota. For a very first-time quarterback to have, even however well he plays. And I get everyone's just going to point to, well, look how good that team was last year, and it was Sam Darnold, that quarterback. If J.J. McCarthy just performs like Sam Darnold or even slightly better, they're going to be in that conversation. Maybe that's somewhat true, but still, that is by all means, a rookie quarterback that is starting for them. That is a huge variable that just is sort of surrounding their entire team. I would definitely have Green Bay ahead of them. That's probably the one, again, I would take the most umbrage with. But overall, Packers 10th at plus 2,200 for odds to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, maybe I could be surprised that the team's ahead of Green Bay, but as you said, Ravens won. I thought that was a pretty shocking number. We have not seen Lamar Jackson play well at all in the playoffs, really. It has not been something where it's like they're knocking on the doorstep. It feels like almost, they're getting into that Cincinnati Bengal territory at this point where it's like, yeah, they'll be there and then they'll be playing on Saturday and then they're going to be eliminated or, whatever it goes from there. But, yeah, I thought that was very shocking just to hear that.
Packers also 7th in the NFC, which seems very, very odd as well. So only 3 AFC teams in that top 10 list: the Ravens, the Bills, and the Chiefs. 3 of the top 4, mind you. But then the Eagles are the 3rd, and then Lions, Rams, Commanders, 49ers, Vikings, and Packers in that top 10. So 7 of the top 10 teams in the NFC, and again, the Packers the 7th of those. So just an interesting group of odds. Again, it doesn't mean anything. It's whatever. They know their stuff, but they don't know the final answers to the tests in totality. So you do actually have to go out and play the games, and of course injuries and all that stuff are going to play a major factor throughout the course of the season as well. Like I said, the only one I would take a little bit of umbrage with is Vikings over Packers, but it's plus 100 difference between the two, so it's not anything super crazy. But yeah, I do believe that should be the aspiration, the goal, and why I wanted to kind of bring that up and talk about that this morning is I do feel like there is a different mentality so far at practice. I do feel that there's a different intensity out there. And I'm not saying that this is like, yep, Super Bowl intensity, here we go, or anything like that. I'm just saying it does feel like if Brian Gutekunst, opening salvo was a sense of urgency is what he wanted. That was going to be the through line that kind of took us from the offseason to the start of the season. So far, I've seen it. I see a sense of urgency. I see hungry players out there that want to go and prove themselves. And I do feel like it's different than in training camps past. I do not recall or remember any of my last years, 6, 7, 8 years doing this, that I can recall talking about, there's a newfound physicality and intensity at Green Bay's Packers practice. I'm sure it's probably come up a time or two over time, but I don't recall it quite like this. So I love what I'm seeing so far, and it does feel like that message from Goody has gotten through. And I do think that this is a team that's, again, hungry, fighting, and wants to show that they are capable of being that team that can rise up and be championship worthy.
Crown them in a week of training camp. Go ahead, Aiden.
Might as
Crown
well.
him.
What
Crown
could
him right
possibly
now.
go wrong?
Yes.
I'm getting out to the Potawatomi Sportsbook today. I'm going to lay that plus 2,200, and I will be rich by the end of the season, I think is what we're going to clearly talk about here. What I do want to go into a little bit is that Zach Tom contract, because we talked about Zach Tom's extension when it happened, but we now have the contract numbers. The first thing that is worth mentioning is there have been a variety of contracts at the offensive tackle position that have taken place after this, that have, I think, even changed the calculus a little bit more because of what's happened with it. Bernhard Raymond got, I think it was a 24 or 25 million per year for the Indianapolis Colts. And remember, Zach Tom got 4 years, 88 million, 22 million per year on his contract extension. Again, I'm not saying that this is like highway robbery or that Zach Tom should feel like he got fleeced in any way. I'm sure he and his family, he got $30 million, up front. He got $30 million to sign that deal. Like, there is like sort of a, if you win the lottery, you have the ability to take that lump sum, or you have the ability to get it paid out over periods of time. The way that the Packers do their contract is a little bit like, hey, we're going to give you the lump sum right up front, and you're going to get more now, but you're going to take a little bit less later. And there is a piece of that. And I think there's an advantage for the players there too. And just to point this out very, very clearly, the Packers can do that because of all that reserve fund and the millions of dollars that they have in their bank account to be able. There are teams that will not do these style of contracts where they give huge signing bonuses because they don't either have or owners want to give huge money up front to players that's just coming immediately out of their bank account and giving it to these players. Like, that is $30 million plus on signing to Zach Tom. That is a huge chunk of change to transfer from one bank account to another. I don't care what organization you are. That is a big chunk of money. So for Zach Tom, he gets a lot more of that upfront money. But first of all, Tommy, I was expecting about $25 million per year, right around where Bernhard Raymond got as well, about $25 million per year for Zach Tom. The contract was a 4-year extension, again, $22 million per year. It doesn't sound anything, too different, right? But it also not only was just 4 years, $88 million, it was 4 years, $88 million on top of the cheap base year that he already had in the final year of his deal. He now has 5 years left on his contract in Green Bay. The first thing of note is that this will take him through ages 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. You are literally getting Zach Tom in the prime of his career through the remainder of this contract. That is a huge win in and of itself. The salary cap number that you're going to be paying Zach Tom per year for the remainder of this contract. Remember, I thought about $25 million per year was going to be about a fair rate for Zach Tom. The first year, $7.4 million. That's a good chunk less than $25 million. Next year, $12.1 million. Awesome. The following year, 2027, $18 million. 2028, $24 million. So the fourth year at 2028, $24 million. In the fourth year of the deal, we are still talking about less than the $25 million I was expecting that he was potentially going to get per year. In the final year, the fifth year of the deal, 2029 at age 30, finally, he will make $30 million in that contract. However, that is one of those very classic Green Bay Packers out contracts. They will be able to save $24 million of that if they want to get out of that contract. So it's a team option year. If they want to pay him $24 million additional that year to keep him on the team, they can. If they don't, they get $6 million in dead cap, and that's all that there is to it. So this is a absolutely glorious contract. You get 4 years of what I think are phenomenal deals. Also, let me just add on top of this, $30 million in 2029 5 years from now, for a really great offensive tackle, is probably going to look like pennies on the dollar. Dan Moore got $20 million this year in the year 2025 for left tackle. So, I think this is a unbelievable contract for Green Bay, and one that Russ Ball, Brian Gutekunst deserve a ton of credit for, because it sets you up with one of the best tackles in football for the foreseeable future, prime of his career, at very reasonable rates throughout the entirety of it.
And it gives you that late contract flexibility on top of it too, with his position on top of it too, Andy, right? I mean, look at how much they just paid Aaron Banks on top of that. Who's to say the guard market doesn't explode in that time in the future too, where now you have Zach Tom, who is a guy that they love his versatility, and that has always been his best characteristic, it feels like. You can move him around wherever you want on that offensive line, and that's just going to be a base salary for an elite offensive lineman at this point, too. I think it is a great deal for Zach Tom. I think everyone should be happy about it. And what I noticed yesterday when the coordinators were talking to Andy, especially when Stenovich was up there, I mean, the offensive line is what everyone wants to hear about for the first time maybe ever at a Packer. We were, I think it was 9 minutes in before they asked a question about Jordan Love. Malik Willis had more questions than Jordan Love did 9 minutes into the pressers yesterday. And the offensive line was all they wanted to talk about, whether it was Zach Tom, Jordan Morgan, Anthony Belton got a question in before Jordan Love. I mean, now they have the massive contracts of Banks and Tom, who people are excited about for sure, too. We haven't seen much from Banks yet, but we know what Zach Tom is. Like, now there's so much pressure, it feels like, on this offensive line. And why not lock down a guy like Zach Tom, who can be an example leader, and as well now make that transition into being like, hey, this guy is going to be a leader on the offensive line.
I love that, and I love another piece of you just like the versatility as well, because one of the beautiful things here with Zach Tom is I don't think he's going anywhere, if meaning right tackle for the foreseeable future. I think he's just going to be locked in there certainly this year. But let's say a couple things happen, right? Let's say next year they're picking late first round, and a unbelievable right tackle falls into their lap at the end of the first round.
Sure,
this is not one of those situations where you're like, well, we can't take a right tackle because we've already got Zach Tom taking that spot, so we have to pass on this unbelievable player because there's no spot for him. No, you get that guy. All right, we'll figure out where we want to play Zach. Zach could go to left. He could go to left guard, center, right guard. We can move him wherever we want, and he's still going to be, honestly, even valuable at the contract that he's on, and he's still going to be an unbelievable offensive lineman. So you have that flexibility. If Anthony Belton, that's another one.
Right.
If Anthony Belton all of a sudden, like let's say Jordan Morgan solidifies himself as a fantastic left tackle, and Anthony Belton starts showing that he is looking like a unbelievable right tackle, and you're probably moving Morgan to guard in that situation. But let's just say, like, though, you have your two long-term bookend tackles in Morgan and Belton. That's where you ultimately want them. Again, you have the flexibility to move Zach Tom wherever you want to move him. So that versatility for Tom as well, the fact that he is a true 5-position offensive lineman that can play any spot along the offensive line. And while I expect him to stay at right tackle, it gives them some real options and versatility moving forward as well. So again, just a home run all the way around for Green Bay. And I know that like salary cap contract talk is sometimes maybe not the most sexiest thing in the world, but it matters a ton to the team building. And I do give Brian Gutekunst, Russ Ball and company a ton of credit for the structure on this contract, getting this deal done ahead of camp and making it so that it's, lucratively, and financially viable and worthwhile with the money up front for Zach Tom, that he was happy with this as well. So a win for all sides, but a beautiful, beautiful contract for Green Bay.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up Belton too, because they have added to the depth now on Green Bay's offensive line this offseason more than they have in many previous offseasons. And to have that flexibility and the contract locked down, you have that for years now too. You can mix and match. You can wait on Anthony Belton. You have the luxury to even wait another year on Jordan Morgan if you want to too. Now,
for sure.
This is a great contract all around for Zach Tom and for the Packers.
All right, so let me quickly run through some of my key takeaways from Packers training camp so far. Again, you're listening to the Pack-A-Day radio show live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. The first is that the Elton Jenkins situation is now behind us, which is huge. He is now playing at center, which is awesome, getting down all the just sort of audibles, checks, and the familiarity with playing that position again with Jordan Love. So he is back. That is huge. You do have some injury issues. Aaron Banks has been a little bit banged up. Savion Williams has been banged up. We know Christian Watson's out. Colin Oliver, John Williams. We now have Dontavian Wicks and Marshawn Lloyd that are banged up as well. So injuries starting to become a little bit of a talking point, but nothing, knock on wood, super long term so far. So hopefully that continues moving forward. Nate Hobbs in the secondary have been noteworthy, but also they've been pretty darn locked down so far. Nate Hobbs did have a little bit of a tougher day the other day, but outside of that, they've been fantastic. And I love the communication and the cohesiveness of that secondary. Isaiah Simmons really making a name for himself at that off-ball linebacker position. He looks right at home in Jeff Hafley's defense, and while there's a long way to go for him, making a name for himself in actual games and getting that playing time, the early results for a value free agent signing have been really, really impressive. Rasheed Walker, of course, had a tough day yesterday, and now it sounds like he and Jordan Morgan are going to start to ramp up the battle at left tackle now that the rest of the offensive line is sort of solidifying itself and Elton Jenkins is back. So we'll see how that battle plays out moving forward. Bo Melton has made the official transition from wide receiver to corner, wearing number 16, and of course, listed as a true corner on the depth chart. Brandon McManus has been literally perfect kicking field goals so far. I think he's 22 of 22, so he continues to absolutely crush it. We got our first look at the throwback jerseys and the uniforms and what they're going to be wearing for their throwback jerseys. You can, of course, get those already, and some of the merchandise out there is pretty sick with it as well. Mark Murphy to Ed policy has officially taken place. One of Mark Murphy's closing statements is that he expects a lot more international games, including to Ireland, London, and or Germany over the course of the next 5 to 10 years for the Packers. The Packers finally filled their full 91-man roster with a variety of different signings, including picking up Israel Abanikanda, former fourth-round pick from the Jets. And last but not least, Nathaniel Hackett is back in a analyst and assistant role, helping out Jeff Hafley's defense from an offensive viewpoint. So those are some of the key takeaways from training camp through the first 6 weeks. And of course, we've had a couple little scuffles and intense moments. Rasheed Walker, Kingsley Enagbare, and of course the Nate Hobbs, Marshawn Lloyd play as well. We are going to get to our good friend Matt Freilich coming up here in just a moment. You missed anything all week long on any of your shows on The Fan, you can check us out for free on the Odyssey app or go to thefanmilwaukee.com. Also check us out over on YouTube. This is the Pack-A-Day Radio Show powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. We've got 67 and Smoky in Milwaukee right now. 67 and Smoky, if you ever wanted to know what it's like to smoke 7 packs of cigarettes in a day, just walk outside and feel all of that beautiful smoke in your lungs. High of 72, low of 62. We'll be right back with Matt Freilich. Welcome back to the Pack-A-Day Radio Show, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Reminder that the Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Thunder Nellis is coming up next from 9 to 11 right here on The Fan. Our own Tommy Wartz will be joining Mason Crosby today, so make sure to check that out. Joining us right now on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law, the amazingly wonderful Matt Freilich. You can find him on social media at Matt_Frey_ Pack-A-Day Podcast, of course. Matt, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Happy to hop on here and chat with you. Tommy running the board here, hopping in with his takes too. And it's I love the weather analysis from you too down in Milwaukee, 67 or 60 degrees and smoky. Did a little Google search to see if the Packers have ever canceled a practice because of AQI. I imagine it's never been canceled, probably just moved into the Don Hudson Center, but something to maybe monitor, but maybe you have an inside scoop on that right now.
I mean, Matt flexing with AQI in the middle of that sentence right there, air quality index. I like that one, Matt. I like that.
There you go. The funny thing is I was going to actually ask Matt of like, hey, is there any way that like the smoke out there would affect an outdoor practice, or have you guys thought of that? I'm like, who cares? Like, like I'm like, and he could easily just be like, nope. Mm-hmm. And then like, all right, cool. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. So I did think of actually asking that question if the air quality could potentially play a factor and if they would practice outside or not. But I decided there were probably cooler questions to actually ask and try to get, other information on players and stuff. So decided against it, but it did definitely cross my mind. Matt, we talked a little bit about the championship intensity of this team through the first, just sort of start of training camp. Again, that was sort of the expectation from Brian Gutekunst, looking for a little bit more of that kind of going into the offseason. I know you were out at practice last week. I'm not sure if you were able to get out there this week yet or not, but what has been your, sort of reaction to this intensity and just kind of this hyper-focused group of Packers this season so far?
Yeah, I got out on Friday, actually, with my younger brother. He came into town, so the third practice we got out to. Haven't been able to make it out this week. Probably won't at all. Hopefully to get to another one here shortly. But yeah, I would say the intensity kind of was setting the tone by Nate Hobbs, really was the biggest thing that I noticed. Obviously, early on in practice, I think it was like the second play, had that over the middle play, Dontavian Wicks kind of making a play on the ball. I'm still kind of penduluming, like, do we want to be that intense? Do we not want to be intense? Obviously, Dontavian Wicks, there was a couple more incidents throughout the practice that he was kind of pulled aside and talked to with Matt LaFleur. And I kind of like the intensity. I mean, I've coached high school sports, and it's like, do you want a guy sliding hard into second, third, or home in a practice? Maybe. Practice how you play. So I can see that, but definitely him bringing it is awesome. Even like one thing that I noticed, I didn't, was a little bit busy this week, Monday, Tuesday, but caught up on some stuff that just online and some of your videos on Pack-A-Day, and even just Paul Brettel talking about how Matt LaFleur had Rasheed Walker run laps. I mean, that was interesting to me. His teammates all followed suit too. Obviously, there was some intense moment between him and Nick Barry, but like kind of just like that intensity. I kind of like Matt LaFleur getting a little bit pissed off too. He said that was probably the top 3 moment that Josh Jacobs had seen from him as far as getting fired up. So I love that. I love Matt LaFleur, but him being a little bit more intense and not as maybe a player first guy, I'd love to see that. And so I think it's the intensity is there, and it's it takes a while for that to ramp up, especially early on in camp. But it seems to be there as we're a week and a half into the first couple weeks of training camp here.
Yeah, it's crazy that just started, last Wednesday, and we've already had, a week of practices, which seems absolutely crazy. But no, I'm right there with you. I love it. I love how just the players, the coaches, everyone is attacking this training camp so far. It just there definitely feels like that extra level of intensity, and I'm loving every single second of it. You mentioned you were out there at practice. Just kind of observations in general. I'll let you kind of go in any direction that you want, but what were kind of some of your takeaways? Just some of the plays, anything that you saw that kind of caught your eye?
Yeah, for sure. Number one, kind of piggybacking off that Nate Hobbs stuff, the cornerback group played great. Some things were kind of given to them a little bit, maybe an underthrow here, a receiver slip someone he's kind of open. So I probably saw, between the quarterbacks, I would say 5 or 6 different guys making plays. I mean, Jonathan Baldwin was even getting in the mix too. So like, It kind of tells you the capacity of what those corners were doing that day. And I always have to caveat this. And I remember every year, it's kind of like when we start the regular season, right? There's going to be a couple sloppy plays or sloppy weeks here and there. Same thing with the offense. Day 3 getting out of sync a little bit, but I would say like the offense was sloppy, but the cornerback group took advantage of it. Carrington Valentine kind of leading the charge on that as far as some of the bigger plays, and Nate Hobbs with the physicality. 2 hours long too on Friday. That was, surprising to me. They kept going and going. Usually, like, I set my, mental clock around 11:45, noon. We're going to be out of here, and it went until exactly 12:30, which was impressive. I think some of that had to do with they had a day off, obviously, on Saturday, and then also just the sloppiness of the offense. The 2-minute scenario, the first one, was really bad from the 3s, the 2s, and the 1s. So they kind of redid that again. So again, the offense will get in sync more. We know that'll happen, as we get later into August, or earlier into August, I should say. The other one, just impactful, and he continues to have the streak. I don't think he's missed yet, but I've seen a lot of tweets about it recently, so I'm sure it'll happen today or tomorrow. But McManus just being absolutely money. I mean, it was the first couple kicks I'm watching, I'm like, these are just dead center. He had one that snuck in on the right goalpost, but outside of that, he is just electric. Went back even last year. I'm like, I forgot we even got him later in the year too. I forget, we struggled with Anders Carlson for a few weeks, and then we finally got around to McManus. So I'm excited for him. Outside of that, like, I know Eli Berkovitz, he was there last week, so we went and talked on our Saturday episode of Pack a Day. He said he was pleasantly surprised and saw the dynamic plays of Savion Williams and Marshawn Lloyd. Well, Marshawn Lloyd didn't really have any incredible plays on that Friday, and Savion Williams was out with a concussion, so I didn't get to see any huge impactful offensive plays. I guess the one area of note that I'm hoping they get fixed was just the downfield plays weren't there. The longest play I think I saw in the air was maybe 15, 20 yards. Some of those deep shots weren't being completed, but they'll cue that up. But yeah, it was a good practice, and intensity, like you said, was one of my main takeaways.
Yeah, your first and last point almost join each other perfectly. With the secondary playing well, one of the things that you can tell is they are still very keenly aware of not allowing explosive plays, and it is something that you can tell the offense really has to work for and get right. If they're going to get an explosive down the field, trust me when I say they have earned it, because that defense is locked down when it comes to those. And Xavier McKinney just makes it so incredibly difficult, because you throw in his direction. It's not even like he's going to break it up. It's like, no, he's going to pick off the pass. Like, it's such a ridiculous thing to have a player like that patrolling it. Very reminiscent of Nick Collins, just screaming around back there in his prime, except that, I think McKinney's hands are a little bit better. I say this over and over. If Nick Collins could have stayed healthy, and if that dude did not have stone hands, that he honestly, I think would have been in the Ed Reed conversation. Like that, I think he was that good from a pure safety standpoint, but there were so many balls that just clanged off his hands, and he still ended up with a good amount of interceptions, don't get me wrong, including one of the biggest ones ever in the Super Bowl, of course, but man, did he have some that clanged off his hands. But yeah, you're now having that player play center field and just all over the place that is ranging and picking off passes, and it just makes it incredibly difficult to throw downfield. And yeah, early on especially, you saw Green Bay really struggle to hit on some of those plays down the field, as you mentioned. We're being joined by Matt Freilich, Pack a Day Podcast. Find him on social media at Matt_Frey_. One of the things that is seemingly about to ramp up is the offensive line rotations. Jordan Morgan, it sounds like, is going to get more time at left tackle, which means that Rasheed Walker and his competition is about to heat up. My assumption is that we might see something with Sean Ryan and maybe a little bit more of a battle there as well. But hopefully Aaron Banks back sooner rather than later, and now Elton Jenkins solidifying that center spot. It sounds like some of these real true competitions along the offensive line are going to heat up, and we're about to see who's going to actually earn these offensive line spots.
Yeah, it's saw the comment, I think, from Stenovich yesterday, just talking about getting Jordan Morgan more in the left tackle spot. It kind of seems like the writing's been on the wall, to be honest. I know in the first break, or the first hour here, first 20 minutes, you were talking about just the contract that Zach Tom got, Dan Moore got, all of that. And I think it's kind of just, they're seeing that they're going to want to keep Rasheed Walker. It's going to cost them so much money to keep him at left tackle. I think he's going to go and get some money on it. I kind of feel bad for him a little bit, because it's like he's going to basically just sit on the bench and be a rotational guy and not make as much money as he could if he was starting this year. So it seems like Jordan Morgan's going to be the guy. It's great that we're actually going to get that competition now that some of these offensive linemen are coming back healthy. You mentioned Aaron Banks, still haven't been able to see him, which is a little bit frustrating. Good that Elton's back. It seems like that's water under the bridge. So that was the biggest thing I think last week we were a little bit concerned about. It's one of our best players, to be honest. So yeah, I think the offensive line rotation is going to be great. I'm excited who they end up keeping. That's one of my favorite things. Like, we generally know, quote unquote, who the best 5 are. There's probably a best 6 right now, but I'm excited to see how many offensive linemen they keep. Is it 3 or 4 extra ones there? and what they end up doing. We know, John Williams hasn't been able to get on the field yet either. So it's at the end of the day, I think it's a good problem to have. I know there were some crazy moves last week. I think Travis Glover was playing left guard at one point too. And we know with the Ben Braden days that happens, right? We get some unpredictable offensive line rotations, and don't be too worried. Just like the offense being out of sync the first couple of days, they're going to throw some stuff at us. But yeah, I'm excited for everyone to get healthy and to see how that rotation looks.
I'm starting to wonder a little bit more. This is me thinking out loud, Matt. So you get to be the my conscience that says I'm an idiot, or like the devil on my other shoulder that says, yeah, do it. I've been pretty against the entire idea all the way through of a Rasheed Walker trade, or like something like that, because I think they're going to need every ounce of depth along this offensive line throughout the course of the season. I do wonder if Jordan Morgan does play really, and there's been a lot of great comments already about Jordan Morgan this offseason. I do wonder if he just wins left tackle, and let's assume Banks and Jenkins and everyone else is healthy. If they really like Jacob Monk, which it seems like they legitimately do as one of those key pieces on the interior, and if Anthony Belton does take a step where they start feeling very, very, very comfortable with him as the swing tackle, if Rasheed doesn't win the starting job, there's a world that I could even see where he says, you need to trade me because I'm losing out on literally tens of millions of dollars if I'm not a starter. Because if I can even go out and show that I'm Dan Moore, I get 20 mil per year. If I'm not starting, I'm in the 8 maybe 8 million a year cap. Like I might lose 12 million plus per year on a 4-year deal. I might lose $50 million if I'm not starting. You need to trade me. And I do wonder if Green Bay just starts to look at it and say, all right, we kind of like our 5 without Rasheed. Every single time anyone asks about Rasheed, it's always like, yep, needs to be with more consistency, needs to do this better, needs to do this better. Every single time. And now you had the situation that happened yesterday. I look at a team like the LA Rams, Alaric Jackson, their starting left tackle, is dealing with a blood clot issue, and they don't know what the sort of scenario is going to be there. A lot of teams do have their left tackle solidified, but if there's a situation like that and some team comes calling and offers something of significance for Rasheed Walker, I'm now maybe letting it play out a little bit more of like, while I still kind of don't want it, it's a little bit more intriguing to me at the moment.
Yeah, I told you with the idea over the offseason. I think it was maybe a month or so ago. Maybe the last time I was on the radio show here with you. And like, I kind of talked myself out of the idea. It seems great. Yeah. Like, hey, get this extra piece. I guess the factor, there's a couple factors that I play. It's basically 3. It's like, what does the market look like? You just mentioned the guy from the Rams having blood clot issues, which are always terrifying, especially, as a professional athlete. Yep. So if the market goes up for him, that's great. The second one being what you just mentioned, missing out on tens of millions of $50 million, like that would be the Rasheed Walker camp probably advocating for it. And I think the other one is what you just mentioned too. Like the first one is like, if Anthony Belton can turn into a swing tackle, then we're probably okay. That's kind of the area I go. Like it would be great. And it's not a great comparison because I don't think it's, fair for either of the player, but like I look at like when we had Yash Nijman, it was nice to have that backup. Rasheed Walker would be great to have that backup. I think they're different players entirely, but I would. It's always great to have that because we don't know. Is Jordan Morgan one of those injury-prone guys? I tend to think not. I think it's just one of those one-off years. But if you don't have Jordan Morgan and you don't have Rasheed Walker, like you're in a world of hurt. I mean, I don't even think it's pretty understated, I would say. So I would hang on to him as long as you can. But if the market keeps getting driven up by a lineman getting hurt, I mean, every day with training camp, we see people getting hurt all the time right now going on IR. I know the Dolphins are in some issues there on the defensive side. So maybe there's a left tackle that goes down. And then I think the X factor might be the Rasheed Walker camp, how patient he wants to be. But it's going to be a great competition. I mean, even just going into family night this weekend, like, we're going to be watching who's starting at left tackle for family, even though it means next to nothing. But even going into the preseason games too, it's going to be one of the bigger competitions, and it's ramping up right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, it really is. And to your point, like you really don't want to trade depth along the offensive line because it gets very scary very, very fast. Which is why I've been against it. It's a little bit more on the top of my mind now with just some of the stuff that's either been said and just some of the competition. So we'll see how this goes, and it'll be interesting kind of see how this ultimately plays out. I think we're going to end up with a Jordan Morgan, Rasheed Walker sort of like rotation at left tackle this year. But again, long way to go, and lots of different things that could happen between now and then. Can be joined by Matt Freilich, Pack a Day Podcast. Find him on social media at Matt_Frey_. Matt, I know that you take a lot of pride in looking at different jerseys, jersey numbers, swag, the real vibes and aura coming off of whether it's a jersey number or the different throwback jerseys, etc. So I would be remiss not to ask you your thoughts on the new Packers jerseys, the uniform. Are they a 10 out of 10? Are they a huge swing and miss? How are you viewing these new throwbacks?
Yeah, in the era of social media, it's, it sucks first off that it got leaked. That doesn't help. I feel bad. I work in marketing for a living. So like, I imagine the Packers PR team, the social media team's like, cool, thanks Dick's Sporting Goods for leaking that. So that kind of got the floodgates open right away. Honestly, like the jersey by itself, hated it. When you put everything together, love it. Like, I think the helmet is great. My little brother was talking about, he's like, Illinois football team did that. I'm like, I don't care. Like the fact that they're doing airbrushed helmets and all those customizations are cool. So I came around to a little bit more. I thought it was hilarious. I think was it the first day of practice? You came back and you were doing your live stream. I watched it after, and everyone in the chat was just like, these jerseys suck. And you're like standing on it. You're like, no, I love these. So
I love them. I absolutely love them.
I didn't love them as much as I did. I love them more than I did that day, but I don't think I love them as much as you do. So it's good. I think it's fun. It's something completely unique and different that they've done. And I think just going with the helmet is, it's unbelievable that they would just put that much time and energy in it. Cause like in the past, it's kind of like, hey, we're just going to rip off the G and you're going to get a yellow helmet, kind of boring. So I think everything combined is great. But individually, I love the helmet by itself, that jersey, not super sold on it. Saw a couple of them at camp on Friday. A lot of Josh Jacobs number 8 jerseys in that throwback, but it's cool. It's going to sell. The merch, I think, is going to be fantastic too. That was one thing I agree with you on. I think all that merch that rolls up with the new logo and just the color schemes are always fun. Those alternative stuff.
I love the navy blue stuff when it comes to the Packers too. Huge fan. So I already got a few things and excited about that. But no, I'm almost the opposite. I love the jersey. The whole uniform is like fine or whatever. The helmet's fine, but the jersey itself, I think it's the cleanest throwback jersey that they've had up until this point. So I'm also old and have no taste whatsoever. So what the heck do I know? All right, before I get you out of here, really quick. Look ahead to Packers family nights. I know it's a glorified practice. It's nothing too much crazier than what we get on a normal training camp day. But what are you kind of looking forward to? What are you hoping to see from Packers family night?
3 things, and pretty simple. One, it looks like the Packers might be streaming it based off a tweet they had this morning, a little bit of a tease. So that's like, finally, like, why not? I mean, in the past, I know there's been like local, like NBC 26, I think maybe had it on their website. They didn't have it streamed, on broadcast. So like, thank goodness. I don't know why you wouldn't. So that's one. Number 2, no injuries. Please, please, please don't get hurt in a glorified practice. And then number 3, who's throwing in the net? Like who's money in the net? That's all I really care for. And I know that's been a big thing for the number of years, but like I love seeing who can, make some splashes in the net. Can El Gersma kind of be the rookie that comes in and takes over the scene there? I don't think Jordan Love will be ever as accurate as Aaron Rodgers. So I don't think it's tough. It's tough to say that he would be able to compete with what Aaron did in the past, but I love the QB throwing in the net. And then I think the fourth thing, even though I said it was 3, just like on the sideline stuff, you get the reporters down there kind of talking to some guys that maybe didn't even suit up and just kind of getting some tidbits there. And it's a lot more laid back and a little bit longer format stuff. So I love hearing what they're saying and maybe about competition there, new players that are coming in and just getting some tidbits there. But it's a nice thing to have in the background. And if you're going to training camp or if you're going on Saturday, I imagine it's going to be super hot, and I've been to some of those in the past, and it's just insane. So plan accordingly if you're bringing the small kids in the family. But good entertainment, good way to break it up. But yeah, I used to put it on the pedestal pretty hard, and at this point, it's low hanging fruit for me. So, but it's still great. I'm still excited to turn that on a Saturday and see some competition.
It is. I'll be out there. Should be a fun night of football, and just getting all the fans out there to watch a practice is still unbelievable. And again, it just kind of shows the beautiful fandom that we have here in Green Bay, to say the least. Matt, I cannot thank you enough. All the work that you do on Pack-A-Day, of course, and for taking some time to join us today. Tell us where we can find you on social media and anything you want to plug on the way out.
Yeah, always a blast to hop on. For me, you can still find me on Twitter, like Andy's mentioned, at Matt_Frey_. That's at MATT_FRA_. If you're coming into town for preseason games, whatever it is, regular season, reach out in the DMs. Happy to plug any places that you maybe should go or visit. Actually, I met some people at training camp, Andy, that drove from like St. Paul, Minnesota at like 3 a.m. We're sitting by them at training camp on Friday, so they're asking places to eat, places to go. Got boots on the ground, we're able to recommendations. As far as plug, we have Saturday Pack-A-Day podcast episode. Obviously, every Saturday. Generally, it'll be the injury report going into the weekend. This week, actually, we'll do kind of a little bit of a recap. Eli and I on Saturday for what training camp looked like. Also, we're going to get joined by Haley Becker of the Green Bay Packers. So she's been with the team for about 15 years in 5 different roles. Started as like basically working in the pro shop. She's now the manager of fan engagement, kind of runs the Packers Everywhere meetups and stuff. So excited to have her on for half the episode just to pick her brain and see what all that is, what encompasses that. I've never been to some of those meetups, but I know they get highly attended, especially when outside of Green Bay. So it'll be cool to have her on, but look forward to that on Tuesday. And then after that, we're basically going to be previewing preseason games for the next couple weeks, which is kind of a blast for us too. So check that out, and always support Pack-A-Day Podcast any way you guys know how.
Appreciate you telling that is Matt Freilich. Matt, I'm sure we're going to talk again soon. Hopefully I can see you out at training camp sometime here in the near future, and we'll catch up very soon.
Awesome. Take care.
Yeah, you bet. That is the one and only Matt Freilich. A huge thank you to him for joining us on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Again, follow him at Matt_Frey_. This is the Pack-A-Day Radio Show. We'll be right back with more right after this.
We kind of believe we have a good foundation of where we are schematically. I still think we're going to need to evolve as we go because people are going to figure us out. Things are going to change around the league of what offenses are trying to do. and we're a different team this year, so we're gonna have to continue to evolve. But where we are at the start compared to where we were last year is totally different, and I'm excited to see where we can go with this.
We are back in the Pack a Day radio show. A huge thank you to Matt Freilich for joining us this past segment. That was Jeff Hafley, courtesy of the Green Bay Packers. Going to be talking about him in our Potawatomi Sportsbook final thought of the day here in just a moment. But a reminder that the Mason Crosby Show is coming up next. We've got Mason along with Tommy from 9 to 11, so you're not going to want to miss that. Mitch is out at the State Fair later today, so catch that as well. Also, a reminder that the Pack a Day Show is also now a podcast. Find us anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite pods. Catch the full episode, listen by individual hour, or jump straight to the highlights. Just open up your favorite podcast app, search Pack a Day Radio Show, and hit that follow button so you can get every minute of the show your way and on your time. And of course, we are out on the YouTube channel as well, which we are broadcasting live from as we speak. Tommy, there is no leadoff show today. There is no Brewers game today because the Brewers organization is spending their entire day figuring out who they want to acquire at the trade deadline. How are we feeling? Is there going to be a big trade today?
No, there won't be. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I know the Suarez trade, I will say, I was kind of leading the anti-Suarez trade group, it felt like, here at the Fan. And then when I saw the return for it, I thought, wow, okay, if I was a Brewer, I would have did that if I was the Brewers. Give up, their number 10 prospect and some guys after that as well. I think it was actually their number 9 prospect, Locklear. He's a first baseman. He hits the ball hard, but the Brewers have, a couple first basemen at the top of or in that same range of prospects that the Mariners had. So I thought it was a little, it didn't look good for the Brewers for sure, especially on the deal that got done for Suarez. And I thought he was going to go for way more based on what we saw some of the other relievers getting in on other teams. I just thought that Suarez would have a little more value, but I don't think the Brewers make a move, and I really don't think they need to, Andy. I think their guys are worth it. I think they're going to be all right. I know that it's just going to be an excuse that people go back to look at and say, hey, if they don't win the World Series, it's because they didn't make a move at the deadline. They have the best record in baseball right now. It's actually, Andy, the best record of all time in the modern era of baseball history come the last day of July.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's a negative positive.
It is the worst winning percentage to have the best record in baseball at July 31st in MLB history in the modern era.
That's interesting. Either way, I'll take it. The Brewers are still first. And I'm with you in the fact that I think this is a really good team as is. I think they're going to do something today. I don't think they'll be totally quiet. I don't think it's going to be a major move. I think it'll be something small, something that's just on the fringes, something that can help them a little bit. And of course, we know, correct me if I'm wrong, you can still do the waiver stuff as well, right? Later on.
I think that's just way less common now. It might have changed the rules a little bit on it because that used to happen. You'd get trades the second week of August because of waiver trades. But I think there has been some change in the lingo on what's allowed on that.
Unacceptable. All right, we'll have to look into that.
Who's going to have
either way,
who's going to have more homers for their new team, Andrew Vaughn or Eugenio Suarez?
Suarez.
Oh,
well, I mean, if we're counting from today forward, I'll take Suarez. If you're talking from when the Brewers acquired,
Vaughn gets a 5-homer head start.
Yeah, a 5-homer head start. I'll definitely take Vaughn in that situation. But it
that's a victory
if, from here on out, that it's like it would end up even. I mean, he's been absolutely incredible.
Right.
I mean, just absolutely incredible. And I'm excited to see if he can kind of keep that up. And hopefully the big thing is just Milwaukee can stay healthy. I can't have another one of these where they don't have a fully healthy Gallardo in the playoffs or Woodruff gets hurt beforehand.
Devin Williams punches the wall. Yeah,
I can't do it. I'm sorry. I need every single one of these guys. I need Churio at 100%. I know Contreras probably is not going to be, but that hand needs to be good enough. I can't. I need if they lose on their own accord, so be it. But I cannot have some weird bizarro thing happen right before the start of the playoffs. That's just like stab me right in the heart again. So can't have it. Just need these guys to be healthy. If they don't make a trade, it's fine. But just for the love of all things holy, be healthy.
I'm with you.
All right. Final thought of the day. Let's get to it right now, Tommy.
You got to do some smart thinking.
It's time for Andy Herman's final thought of the day.
What are you thinking?
Powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
What the hell were you thinking?
You're listening to the Pack a Day radio show on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan.
We heard Jeff Hafley at the onset, courtesy of the Packers, and just kind of his thoughts on the defense. And my thought in our Potawatomi Sportsbook final thought of the day is enjoy this man while he is currently a Green Bay Packer, because I do not know how long this is going to last. If this is a top 10 defense this year, which I think it will be, he should be a head coach next year, and it should happen sooner rather than later. Obviously, would love him for to remain the defensive coordinator in Green Bay for as long as he possibly wants to. But I do think that he has every making of an NFL head coach. On the field coaching, which I know people don't get a real great glimpse into, but when we get to see him along the sidelines coaching players and coaching groups, he is as sharp as it gets and knows how to relate to players. The scheme that he has put together, his ability to evolve on a moment's notice, his press conference presence, like just everything. He has it. If he doesn't get, like, every team that passes on him as a head coach next year will end up regretting that, in my opinion. He's got everything it takes to be a natural leader in the NFL and should be a head coach sooner rather than later. But Packers defense has to go out and perform for him this year in order for that to probably happen. If it doesn't, then it certainly has a different connotation. But I think this defense is going to go out and have a great year, and I think we could be looking at not a long tenure in Green Bay if that ends up being the case, because he will be a head coach in the NFL in the next year or two. All right, that is going to do it for me today. Of course, Tommy and Mason coming up next on the Mason Crosby Show. Also, Tommy will be filling in for me tomorrow as I'll be taking, I think, my last vacation day until the bye week coming up. So
you said that the last 8 vacation days, Andy.
That's not totally true. I did forget about this one, I think, but this is my last one up until going to Vegas on the bye week. So looking forward to that. But enjoy Tommy tomorrow. He'll absolutely kill it. I know Ashley Washburn coming in tomorrow. Anything else planned?
Yeah, we're just going to take a look at training camp from the day before. Hopefully we get some good sound from LaFleur and whatnot beforehand and break down anything brand new in Packers training camp this week.
Awesome. Well, I'll be listening and looking forward to it. So make sure to check out Tommy tomorrow. Of course, again, Mason and Tommy coming up here on the Mason Crosby Show in just a moment. Pack-A-Day podcast and Pack-A-Day radio show, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Again, Tommy tomorrow with Ashley Washburn. I will see you guys out at training camp. Happy Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, go Pack Go.